Liverpool's first bit of business in the post-Jurgen Klopp era has just been announced as owners FSG appear to have finally got their man as Michael Edwards has agreed to return to Liverpool after accepting a senior role which will see him oversee football operations at Anfield. Actually, the role was set to be overseeing all of FSG's football operations, a much larger remit than he held previously, which makes him one of the most important names in the Premier League. Now, Edwards initially turned down the approach, or even several approaches, from the American owners following Klopp's announcement that he was leaving at the end of the season. And before he can even start thinking about new transfers, his first tasks will be to secure a new sporting director, and then the big one, getting the right successor to Jurgen Klopp. This is seen as a major coup for Liverpool, as both Chelsea and Manchester United were said to have also offering them roles at their clubs. So why is Michael Edwards, someone who isn't a coach, manager and certainly isn't a player, so highly revered in the football world? So let's take a look at not just some of the incredible players he's helped bring to Anfield, but some of the unbelievable deals that Edwards has been instrumental in. Here's Michael Edwards' top 5 Liverpool moments. In 2017-18, Philippe Coutinho was flying. The Mina had christened Mane, Salah, Firmino and himself as the Fab Four, scoring goals and destroying top-level opposition for fun. But these kind of performances don't go unnoticed, and inevitably Barcelona began to show an interest in Liverpool's number 10. Barca refused to go away and Coutinho's head was turned, but Michael Edwards saw this as a massive opportunity. He refused to blink as the bids became higher and higher, eventually negotiating a sale for around £142 million. Now, when one of your best players leaves the club, it's not often that it can be spun into a positive, but Edwards and Jurgen Klopp had plans for this money. While Virgil van Dijk was probably heading to Anfield anyway, things went smoother knowing that Liverpool were about to receive a massive payday. It certainly did help in making Alisson Becker the most expensive goalkeeper in the world a few months later. These are probably the most pivotal signings of the Jurgen Klopp era, two players who would go on to become the best in the world in their respective positions. Sometimes you have to spend big and not just get the best players, but get the right players. Dominic Solanke has developed into a Premier League striker who is comfortable playing at a high level, but it wasn't always that way. Liverpool paid around £5 million for the ex-Chelsea youngster, but it's fair to say that it never really worked out for Solanke at Anfield. In his 27 appearances, he only managed to score once, but Michael Edwards worked his magic and managed to secure around £19 million for Bournemouth for Solanke's signature. A great bit of business, but it pales next to the Ryan Brewster deal. Brewster would only play 4 times for the Reds, never in the Premier League, and we would never register a first-team goal. He did, however, have a successful period on loan with Swansea City, meaning that there were no shortage of suitors in the summer of 2020. Sheffield United looked to sign the youngster to help them score more goals after an excellent first season in the Premier League. All sounds reasonable enough, but Michael Edwards somehow managed to secure a deal worth £23.5 million for Liverpool. That's £23.5 million for a forward who'd never scored a goal in the Premier League. Should Brewster turn into a superstar, Edwards had inserted a 3-year buyback clause into the deal. Absolute madness. Not many hearts were racing when the club announced that Andy Robertson had arrived from Hull City in 2017 to compete with Alberto Moreno for the left-back position. The backroom team at Anfield, headed up by Edwards, had seen potential in the ex-Celtic man that no one else in the Premier League had spotted. Of course, we know he'd go on to win every trophy possible and become a true Liverpool legend, but in what was now part of the course, Edwards had to work some magic. Robertson was signed for £8 million, an absolute fraction of his worth to the club over the coming seasons, but even better, young midfielder Kevin Stewart would move the other way for a deal worth around the same amount. Do not play cards with Michael Edwards. Fancy a bit more Michael Edwards magic? Well, how about getting £12.5 million for a backup goalkeeper? Okay, it was after the Champions League final in 2018 when it became obvious that neither Loris Karius or Simon Mignolet were the goalkeepers that would take Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool to the level needed to win the very top prizes in football. Liverpool's goalkeeper number 3 was youngster Danny Ward, who had made a couple of promising cameos, but after the Reds swooped for Alisson Becker, it looked obvious that Ward was to be moved on. Up steps Edwards, who negotiated a £12.5 million deal with Brendan Rodgers' Leicester City, although Ward was never able to oust Kasper Schmeichel from the number one spot. Although both Edwards and Klopp are always prepared to wait until the right player is available, there's a time when a more decisive approach is needed, which was the case in the January of 2022. The Reds had earmarked Porto winger Luis Diaz as a transfer target for the summer of that year, but with Spurs showing an interest, Liverpool acted swiftly, bringing the deal over the line before anybody knew what was happening. The key negotiator in the deal was said to be Julian Ward, who would replace Edwards as sporting director that summer. With the transition slowly happening throughout the season, Edwards was safeguarding the club's future before he left, although Julian Ward also decided to vacate the position soon after. So, FSG finally get their man again. Don't be surprised if Michael Edwards is checking out flights to Leverkusen in the very near future.